necessarily know how I'm going to keep it.
Oh, you're reading off an iPad?
Yeah.
You're reading off of a paper.
The backup page. This is good.
I don't think.
I'm not. What?
Okay. Never mind.
I'm just putting my thing up here. Keith, I want to see if the Zoom works. Why is that not?
You're talking about the feed? What are you talking about? You have a hard copy? I do, yeah. What are the lights? Your side.
Hi. Is this live stream working?
I don't know.
Oh.
It might, but I have no idea whether they turn on live stream today.
Well, yeah, they said they would take care of it for us.
Okay, I don't know. I can inquire.
Oh, yeah, it is working. Good. Thank you. Is that it?
I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it is working. And the live feed seems to be working, it looks like.
Yeah, I just checked to be sure. Yes.
My job is to work. I have no idea what's going on.
That was it. I didn't. On my phone I couldn't find the refund fast enough, and then I saw the time. So. All right. So thank you for coming today.
I'm not staying.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I was backing up. I stepped on a toe. I like further side fitted. Whatever you see fit as far as no, thank you so much. I apologize for all the craziness, timing. It was such a whirlwind this illness. The doctor was saying, you know, just 2 or 3 days and that's it. And then kind of yes. Yes, it's been a tough, I mean, I'm sure it's been tough for everybody, a tough year. Thanks. I mean, initially, remember, like, initially, what's that, there's like 1 to 10 people, initially, when we were Beth, Mary Alice was saying that you were like first row. Okay. Thank you very much.
Don't step on anything.
I'll try. I'll try.
I think quite good. You know, I'm making some water. live stream, by the way.
Are you going to be here tomorrow, or should we get going on Monday? You're not here Monday.
I haven't been following this since the pandemic. I've been working every day.
Here?
No, like depending where. I'm just not sure where I'm going to be. I think I'm
So I wanted to stop by and say goodbye.
and goodbye to you all. Thank you.
Oh,
All right, let me get this.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Some of you may have Cedarim prayer books that are in the pockets that are right in front of you, or if you're sitting in a front row, will be either underneath or on the side. We're going to start with Psalm 23, which can be found on page 337. And I'm going to do back and forth. Actually, no, I won't do it that way. I'm going to do all Hebrew straight, and then I'm going to do all English straight. And you're welcome to sing with me the Hebrew if you know it. If you want to say it with me, you're welcome to read the English with me as well. All of the Hebrew is transliterated into red on the left side of the page. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, bino deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinaleni, nafshi yeshavev, nafshi yeshavev, yancheni v'magle tzedek, tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elach begeit amavet lo hirara, ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha Adonai shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamoni tarach lefanai shulchan, tarach lefanai shulchan, tarach lefanai shulchan, neged zorerai, dishanta v'shemen roshi, dishanta v'shemen roshi, dishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya, ach tov v'chesed, תרדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בבית אדוני ושבתי בבית השם לאורך ימים. Now in English, Psalm 23. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God lays me down in green pastures, leads me to still waters, renews my life, guides me in right paths, for that is God's way. Though I walk through a valley as dark as death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in full view of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. We are gathered here together for the memorial service for Gloria Faye Holler, Gittel Fea Bat Gabriel Virachel. I'm Rabbi Lisa Malik. I am the Rabbi of Temple Beth Ahm, Aberdeen. And while it is sad to welcome you under these circumstances, I feel very good about the fact that we could all be here together, most of us without masks, sort of post-pandemic or towards the end of the pandemic as we pay tribute to Gloria. I'd like to extend condolences on behalf of myself and the leadership of Temple Beth Ahm to Gloria's 3 children, to Keith and Mark and Jody, to Gloria's 5 grandchildren, Matthew, Melina, Nora, Ryan, and Chad, to Gloria's daughters-in-law, Michelle and Dina, to Gloria's son-in-law, Eric, and her brother-in-law, Arnold, and to all of the nieces and nephews and other relatives and so many friends who came out to be here today. Gloria passed away peacefully, thank God, on May 19th, 2021, the 8th of Sivan, 5781, Chet Sivan Tafshin Pei Aleph. Gloria was born on February 2nd, 1942, to the late William Morgan and Ray Bernstein Morgan. She grew up in Bensonhurst, that's the section of Brooklyn, New York, among many aunts, uncles, and cousins, and her childhood activities included fond memories at the local JCC and attending Dodger games at the old Ebbets Field. She graduated from Lafayette High School in 1959. After high school, Gloria followed her calling and pursued a career in nursing, where she graduated from the Mount Sinai School of Nursing in 1962. She later obtained a master's degree in education at St. John's University. And over her career as a nurse, which spanned over 4 decades, positions included child psychiatric nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital, nursing supervisor at Kingsborough Psychiatric Hospital, community mental health nurse, instructor at St. Vincent's School of Nursing, and she also had a well-known private practice in psychiatric nursing in central New Jersey. Gloria raised her 2 sons and daughter in Matawan, New Jersey, where she lived for over 42 years. And during that time, Gloria was an active member of this shul, of Temple Beth Ahm, and the local Hadassah chapter. And over the past few years, I got to know Gloria when she started attending a class that I taught at the library in Marlborough once a month entitled Wild Women of Biblical Proportions. So Gloria was one of my wild women who studied wild women. Gloria was an incredibly warm and loving person. She was loved by all who knew her. She valued each and every individual and considered no person a stranger. Her family viewed her, described her as a compassionate soul, always willing to listen, always willing to offer sound advice. And in her retirement, Gloria had the time to enjoy one of her lifelong passions, which was travel. And that began with backpacking through Europe after nursing school. Over her lifetime, she had the opportunity to visit approximately 75 countries on all continents. And some of these countries included trips with her travel buddies, including Australia, China, Japan, Russia, Israel, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Nepal, Brazil, Morocco. The list goes on. Gloria's other passion was attending Broadway shows and visiting museums in Manhattan or wherever she happened to be visiting. And a highlight of her week would be the Wednesday Broadway show matinee and dinner at a New York City restaurant with the ladies. Later in life, she discovered the stock market and enjoyed cable news and watching Kramer. Back to the Broadway shows theme, when I visited Gloria shortly before her death at the hospital, Broadway show tunes were, I wouldn't say blaring, but they were in the room. I think it was Hamilton was what was playing when I first walked in, and that was courtesy of her son Mark, who I think set that up. And so you felt the Broadway show tune vibe in the room, even in Gloria's last week's days. So right now, I'd like to pass the mic on to Gloria's children and friends. So first, we're going to hear from Keith.
Good morning. For those who might not know, my name is Keith, and I'm Gloria's oldest child. This building, this sanctuary, has a lot of memories. 41 years ago last month, I was called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. Just right here, I read from the Torah. I can still picture my mom beaming with pride and joy as her very nervous firstborn took part in the bar mitzvah rituals. A few years later, my brother Mark and then my sister Jody took the beamer right at the spot. As each of us completed the Jewish rite of passage, my mother smiled with happiness and was proud as any mother could be. As I look into the sanctuary, I can see the spot where my family used to gather for the holidays. Just right about there. It seemed every year we would sit in almost the same spot, maybe a few rows forward or a few rows back from the prior year. My mother dressed in her best early 80s high holidays attire with her 3 children in tow. She would help us with the participation in the prayers, encourage us to attend the children's services, or when we got older, to help lead. During breaks, she would chat with her friends, mostly talking about her kids and what school activities were upcoming, or the next bar mitzvah to plan. My task today is to introduce you to my mom. Yes, I know each and every person here has their own story to tell, their own memories of my mother. As such, no introduction is probably necessary. However, I hope to enrich each person's memory with a combination of the objective facts of her life and my memories and stories. Hopefully, I will complete the picture of what a wonderful mother, a wonderful grandmother, a wonderful friend I believe my mother was to all who knew her. My mother was born in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn in 1942. For the outside world, the fighting in Europe and the Pacific was the news of the day, as America had just entered World War II. However, for William and Ray Margon, on February 2nd, their small world was enriched with the birth of a baby girl, Gloria Fay. She would be the only child of William and Ray, so I'm sure she was the apple of their eye. Despite being an only child, my mother felt that she was part of a huge extended family. My mom had 11 aunts and uncles, so family gatherings were large, loud, and crowded with aunts, uncles, their spouses, and all the cousins. Additionally, the apartment building where she grew up, there were more than 25 children in her building. With a number of family and friends around, my mom was never bored. With her childhood friends, Estelle, Judy, Paula, Penny, and Joan, my mom spent a lot of her time at the local Jewish community center, where she had a lot of fun and participated in swimming, basketball, and dances up on the roof. Additionally, which is recently news to me, my mom was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan. When the Dodgers won the World Series in 1955, my mom was 13 years old. The Dodgers were a big part of her life. My mom attended 5 to 10 games a year and listen to the games on the radio. I know from my daughter, my nephews and niece, the fact that the game was on radio and wasn't on a large flat screen high definition TV probably seems a little strange. However, having all our friends crowded around listening to the game on the radio, for me, paints a beautiful picture. As with many other children in that era, the Brooklyn Dodgers were a big part of my mother's life. Unfortunately, when the Dodgers moved to Los Angeles in 1958, it was devastating for my mom. She had said that was the end of her childhood. Fortunately, my mom's story continued. She attended Lafayette High School in Brooklyn. For some reason, I like to picture my mom wearing long skirts, button-down blouses, saddle shoes, something out of a Happy Days television episode. I'm sure those cherished days of the late 1950s included going to the local soda shop, fun at the Coney Island Boardwalk, and school dances. It was also a period which helped mold my mother into the caring person who had a deep desire to help people, to offer support for those in need, to be a good friend. I recently saw a picture of my mother which had a note which said, Camp Ramona, 1959. In this picture, my 17-year-old mother was a camp counselor with her arms around one of her campers. It was a simple picture. However, I think it said a lot about my mother's lifelong desire to give support to children and to those who were not as fortunate as her. I have heard that very few people in life get to do what they want to do, to have a career that is truly their life's calling. I, for one, wanted to be the quarterback of the New York Jets. However, we all know how that turned out. My mom was one of the lucky ones, pursuing a career that most would say she was perfect for and brought her so much happiness. After high school, she went to nursing school and graduated with an RN degree from Mount Sinai Nursing School in 1962. In going through my mother's pictures, there were so many of her wearing her nursing outfit, pictures with her parents and friends on graduation day. In those old black and white pictures, I was able to see an excitement in her smile, a spark in her eye. She was proud that she was embarking on a career and lifelong adventure that she truly wanted to do, to help people and support individuals in need, to make a difference in people's lives. Mom continued her education, obtaining a bachelor's degree from City University and a master's degree from St. John's. Mom's professional career spanned over 40 years. Some of her stops along her professional career, including a psychiatric nurse at Mount Sinai, a nursing supervisor at Kingsborough Psychiatric Hospital in Brooklyn, a community mental health nurse, and a nursing instructor at St. Vincent's School of Nursing. In listening to my mom telling stories about her career, one of the stories that stood out in regard to her role as a community mental health nurse in Brooklyn. As the story goes, she said that many of her clients had ties to the mafia. It got me thinking, who knew that my mom was the original Dr. Melfi, the medical professional that helped Tony Soprano in the HBO series The Sopranos? Can we picture my mom sitting across a hardened mafia boss and offering support and guidance? Perhaps a shoulder to cry on? Probably not. However, I know that if the situation that we were all imagining ever happened, I know she would be up to the challenge. During the period in which she pursued her lifelong passion, she also had time to raise a family. Along with my father, my mother raised 3 children. I was born in Brooklyn. The family moved to Staten Island for about 11 years when my brother Mark and sister Jody were born, and later we moved to Aberdeen, New Jersey, where my mother lived for over 41 years. During that time, she was able to manage 3 kids and all our busy schedules that included carpools for Hebrew school, basketball and soccer games, dance recitals, band concerts, and a plethora of other school activities. She also organized bar and bat mitzvahs, Passover seders, graduations, and college visits. My mom was an expert in multitasking before anyone knew what the word meant. Now, before you start thinking my mom was super mom and that she was able to manage a career of 3 active children without any bumps along the way, I can say that you would be sorely mistaken. To that end, I have a few humorous stories to tell. The first involves my sister Jody. I guess by the time my mom's 3rd child came around, her attention to detail was starting to diminish. As I mentioned before, my mom was great at multitasking carpools and schedules. However, while she was great at driving in a carpool, maybe she wasn't that great at organizing a carpool. My poor sister Jody. My mom actually said, "Can you please just call a few of your friends and get into a carpool?" When she asked Jody to do this, I believe she was 10. Not exactly sure how Jody organized it. However, I'm pretty sure she didn't end up walking to Hebrew school. True story. Another story I'd like to share is that at least 2 or 3 kids, my mom could be a little bit of a nudge. I know everyone is saying, Gloria, come on, no way. But it's true. One of my memories was when my family first moved to New Jersey. I was a new kid at school at that awkward middle school age when it's tough to meet friends. I remember coming home from school every day, and my mom would ask, so how many phone numbers did you get? The next day again, how many phone numbers did you get? I think I reached a point where I was just making phone numbers up. I never called the numbers, as people, didn't exist. However, I did have a ton of numbers. Mom, now you know the truth. As I get older, her opinions, which were very clearly communicated to me, and I'm sure my brother Mark and sister Jody, revolved around what after-school jobs I should be applying for, what colleges I should be looking at, what college courses I should be taking, and when I would be going back to school for an advanced degree. I think just 1 year ago, she asked me if I was going back to school and finally finish my MBA. From her perspective, she was thinking that an MBA would help my career. From my perspective, I was thinking more in the lines of Rodney Dangerfield in the movie Back to School. I finally confronted her and said, Mom, I'm currently planning my retirement, which I hope will happen sooner than later. And as such, an MBA is not going to make a whole lot of difference on the golf course. After that, I think she got the message and started focusing on her grandkids. Again, with the questions, who were their friends, what school courses were they taking, what activities were they doing, and when were they taking the SATs. Maybe I would call this the circle of life as she started nudging the next generation. The last supermom story I would like to mention, and I think it would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, is her cooking. Now, I know balancing a career and 3 kids was tough. I know it was. However, spending time preparing well-balanced meals was not my mother's forte, especially during the challenging weekday schedules with work, school, and activities. Growing up, weeknight dinners included frozen dinners, which I had to heat up myself, spaghetti and ketchup, and frozen chicken patties with a side of canned vegetables. Additionally, Mother had no sense of expiration dates. It was good enough to eat last year, it was good enough to eat today. Well, I guess it wasn't all bad, as all 3 of us lived to tell the tale, and we now have an excellent sense of what a well-balanced meal should look and taste like. In addition to her 3 children and 5 grandchildren, my mom had many passions in her life. The greatest among them was a lifelong passion of traveling, which began with backpacking through Europe after nursing school. Let me set the stage. The summer was 1963. John F. Kennedy was president. The Beatles hasn't hit the U.S. yet. However, my mother and 3 of her friends, Terry, Fran, and Hinda, traveled through Europe and Israel. Some of the stories I've heard involve sleeping on a haystack in a barn, stealing fruit from a roadside orchard, and sleeping in a church where a dead body was just delivered. These are wonderful stories, and hopefully I'll get to hear more from her friends. I'm sure this trip ignited my mother's passion for travel. She has said she has visited over 75 countries on all continents. For those who don't know, some of her countries she had visited with her travel buddies included Australia, China, Japan, Russia, Italy, Israel, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Morocco, Brazil, and many other countries in Europe and South America. At this point, I'd like to thank all of her friends and were able to join her at times during these many trips. They were wonderful, and my mom cherished these special times immensely. For me, who caught the travel bug from my mom, I think it is just amazing that she was able to visit all these places. I think it is a testament to following your dreams and trying to spend your time doing what makes you happy. When she was away, I enjoyed getting the phone call from that far-off land, hearing how the trip was going, hearing the excitement in her voice. When she got home, I enjoyed hearing about the trip and her ideas regarding her next adventure. However, despite being somewhere on the other side of the planet, she always had time to ask, how is work going? How is the family doing? How are the grandkids? Not far behind traveling, one of her favorite activities, especially during her retirement, was attending Broadway shows. A highlight of her week would be a Wednesday Broadway matinee and dinner at a New York City restaurant with her friends. In addition to going to a show with her friends, she loved attending theater with her grandkids. It didn't matter if she saw the show before, she loved taking her grandchildren and watching them get excited about seeing a big show on Broadway. I know my daughter Nora will always have fond memories of going to a Broadway show and spending the day in the city with her grandmother. Over the past few minutes, you have had the opportunity to hear about my mother, her childhood, her youth, her professional career, and her activities later in life. However, in my opinion, her greatest accomplishment was raising her 3 children. While I won't give an opinion on myself, I can say my mother helped raise 2 very well-adjusted adults, and my brother Mark and my sister Jody, who are both doing an excellent job in raising families on their own. When I hear about my brother Mark going to football games, dance recitals, and college visits, and my sister Jody planning carpools to baseball and basketball games, scheduling SAT prep courses, I see and hear a lot of my mother in them. I know Mark and Jody's ability as parents, but also being first-class adults, made my mother proud of them every single day. To finish up, let me take a moment please take a moment and look at the person next to you. You might know the person next to you, or you might be meeting them for the first time. However, the one thing we have in common is that we all cared about my mom. I'm so grateful to each of you and recognize my mother as the wonderful person she was and who cared about people and tried to be the best of friends to everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. My family and I are eternally grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. That was beautiful. Carrie?
Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Carrie Ginsberg. My dearest friend and sister of 61 years passed away. Her journey started before with breast cancer, which spread to her lungs and bones. Notwithstanding those many years, between treatments, we traveled the world and spent every winter in Florida and had many interesting experiences. During that time, we collected many new friends and reconnected with old ones. You've heard that Glo was born in Brooklyn and came to Mount Sinai School of Nursing in '59. And she got married, continued her education, undergrad and master's, and had various professional careers, but settled as an instructor of St. Vincent's School of Nursing in Staten Island, where she taught psychiatric nursing. She had a very, very busy private practice in the mental health field, and every time I'd call her, she'd be telling me that she had office hours, so I had to call back. There'll never be another Glo. She was intelligent, courageous, selfless, caring, and a very compassionate person. She never complained about her illness or life. As she would say, let's move on with the program of life. We spoke every day, multiple times, and never ran out of conversation. Every day she would call all her friends and relatives to let them know she cared and was interested in their lives and well-being. In all the years which we traveled, starting in 1963, post graduation from nursing school, We traveled from June to December in '63 and went to Europe, England, Greece, Israel on Arthur Fromer's $5 a day. When we returned to our job at Mount Sinai, they welcomed us back. Those were the days when you could leave and come back and still have a job. During our travels, we never had a disagreement, and who can say that about a friend? She was devoted to her children, Keith, Jody, and Mark, and talked about them all the time, and her 5 grandchildren, who she absolutely adored, her sister-in-laws, who she loved, and her many relatives that she also was so proud of. She liked to say how lucky she was to inherit the Holler family. They loved her and she loved them. If there was an event for a family member or friend, she was there. Nothing stopped her. Snow, rain, wind, fog, or her illness. She was fearless, and I admired that. Besides traveling, she loved reading, taking photos, of which was so annoying. Every place we went, she'd take a million pictures. And I told her, I said, you know, if you die, your kids are going to get a big dumpster, and they're all going to go into that dumpster. But she insisted. Playing bridge, which she schlepped me to play duplicate bridge. I hardly knew how to play bridge to begin with, but she insisted. Anyway, I muddled through that. Watching Kramer in the stock market and buying and selling stock, we would sit in her condo and contemplate what we were going to buy. So we bought Apple and Facebook at a low, and we each made a lot of money. She loved art, movies, opera, museums, her lifelong learning classes, and the festival flea market. Most of all, she loved the beach. She loved lobster, and I'm kosher, so it took a lot for me to go with her to the place. She said, we're gonna have lobster, I'm gonna have lobster mussels, but you can have fish. I called them up and had fish for you. I said, okay. Lamb chops, and she loved Boston Market turkey. She was not without faults, but there were few. She was a slow driver, especially on the parkways. She would drive 35 miles an hour until she was pulled over by an officer who told her she was dangerous. She had no sense of direction and could not go anywhere without her GPS. One day she called me to tell me she got lost while taking a walk from her house. I said, I'm gonna give you an Apple Watch so you can find your way home, which I did. She loved the movies, but as soon as the theater got dark, she would fall asleep, only to revive herself when the movie was almost over and swear she was not sleeping. Swear it. Those of you who went to the movies with her know what I'm talking about. She was a hoarder of sorts. She loved to collect brochures and cards about travel or anything she felt she might need in the future. It made her Florida condo very interesting. Thank goodness for Teresa. My friends, you have read my synopsis of what a wonderful person Glo was. Her final selfless contribution was to help others, so she gifted her body to the icon Mount Sinai School of Medicine for research for the medical students. She is back where she started her career. Well done, Glo. Rest in peace, my friend. I will miss you. Your sister, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I think I drove behind Gloria a couple of times. And now, last but not least, Acharon Chaviv, Mark.
Marco Polo, Vasco da Gama, Ferdinand Magellan, John Cabot, Christopher Columbus, and finally, Gloria Morgan Holler. These are some of the top world travelers and explorers in history. Okay, maybe Mom didn't captain a ship, set sail with a 100-man crew, and navigate by the moon and stars over 700 years ago, but she did have a deep passion and desire for world exploration, to visit faraway lands, meet different people, eat new foods, and discover new cultures. Mom visited 75 countries on all 7 continents. That's really amazing. But even more amazing, many of these trips happened after her cancer diagnosis 20 years ago. My mother certainly did not give up and quit life. My mom was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. She grew up surrounded by many different groups of people with different backgrounds. I believe it was at this time in her life that led her to learn more about these cultures and travel the world. Mom would always mention to me where her next trip would be. She wasn't by any means asking me for permission to take the trip. She just wanted to share some of her excitement with me. And I would say, that sounds awesome. Have a great time. About 10 years ago, she mentioned she was planning on taking a trip to the Middle East. And as usual, I said, okay, have a great time. I paused and said, wait, what? There had been some disturbing activity in the Middle East, and it probably wasn't a good idea to travel there at this time. But then something happened. Something that changed her life and changed my view of my mother. A few weeks after telling me about our Middle East trip, Mom got into a really bad car accident. Bad. My mother rolled her car 15 times traveling 75 miles an hour on a highway in upstate New York. Correction, it was probably more like 59. Mom was an exceptionally slow driver. I received a phone call from a state trooper to come meet them at a local firehouse to discuss the accident. The state trooper, who was a 60-year-old, 6'5", 250-pound mountain of a man, pulled me into the next room and said, Mark, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of major accidents and devastation during my long career. Then he said, and I'll never forget it, Mark, I've never arrived at an accident and saw a car look like this and have a 68-year-old woman get out and walk away without a scratch. She's a miracle, he said. It was at that very moment I told my mother, Mom, it's okay to go to the Middle East. You're going to be fine. Nothing can hurt you. Take lots of pictures. Have a great time. I'll see you when you get back. 2 things happened after that accident. First, Mom did visit Saudi Arabia and of course had a great time. And she also survived the trip. And second, she wasn't allowed to drive a car up to Syracuse anymore. Amtrak, JetBlue, and Keith or Jody. That's it. Yes, my mom was a really tough woman. New York City and Brooklyn tough. She really enjoyed her childhood and life as a child and teenager in Brooklyn. And I recently talked to her about this part of her life, and I could see all the excitement in her face. So many stories, she said. Too many stories. She grew up in a 5-floor apartment building in Bensonhurst area of Brooklyn. This area was filled with children. That's serious. There were apartment buildings up and down the street with many kids living in each building. There were no cell phones, no internet, no social media. Just lots of people always around wanting to hang out and talk, old school style. The Jewish Community Center was also a big part of her youth, with many events for kids going on there all the time. But her most beloved memory of her youth was watching, listening, and cheering for the Brooklyn Dodgers. When they won the World Series in 1955 and beat the evil Empire New York Yankees, she was 13 years old, the most amazing age to share this exciting event with family and friends. And strangers too, she said. In her words, it was the most magical time of my life, and I'll always remember those games. And she also remembered the sad feeling that she and her community felt when the team packed up and left Brooklyn, New York for Los Angeles, California, only 2 short years later. She told me that this was the unofficial end of her childhood. Her passion quickly moved from the Brooklyn Dodgers to nursing, which started as a 14-year-old girl volunteering in a hospital for a few years. My mother was able to manage a very successful nursing career for over 40 years. Her experiences were many, but what stood out to me the most were her 2 years working in a psychiatric hospital, which she compared closely to the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Along with her love for travel, Mom had many other hobbies. She loved to read books, watch TV shows and movies, visiting museums, eating at restaurants, the stock market, the sounds and smells of the beach, her beloved Jersey Shore, and Broadway shows. She attended hundreds of Broadway shows and plays during her lifetime. Growing up, my mom loved to take our family to Broadway shows. I guess she wanted us to have a balance between sports and the arts. But as a 7 or 8-year-old, my biggest memory of those shows wasn't the amazing singing, dancing, acting, music, or costumes. No, it's that we always sat in the last possible row of the balcony. The very last row. I remember complaining about this. But then, at another show, we sat in the second to last row. And I complained about that too. I wanted the last row. That's my seat. Something interesting I noticed about my mom at Broadway shows. Mom Gloria, the kids' seats were the last row of the balcony. Grammy Glow, the grandkids' seats were 15th row of the orchestra. Well, that's what grandmas are supposed to do, I guess. Anyway, if you're able to join us after this service at Mom's house, please enjoy music from dozens of Broadway shows. And if you hear a song from a show that you attended with Mom, please come find me and let me know all about it. But her biggest love was her grandchildren. She wanted to be around them and hear all the exciting things that were going on in their lives. Whether it was an in-person visit, remember those? Or phone calls, FaceTime, text messages, emails, and everyone's new favorite, Zoom. But my personal favorite were Mom's famous snail mail, handwritten notes, cards, and letters. And it didn't even matter that these letters were very difficult to read, mostly illegible, and sometimes upside down. Mom just wanted to let her grandkids know she loved them, and was thinking about them, and was so proud of them. To Grammy Glow's grandkids, Grammy Glow is in you. There are many things we could all point to, but from my quick view and observation, Ryan, your love and passion for baseball during your childhood. Chad, learning about the stock market and challenging your buy-sell instincts. And maybe some of her New York City wit as well. Nora, the theater and the arts, and your love attending Broadway shows. Melina, your love of travel. On our family trips to Florida and the Caribbean, you love to research the hotels, the resorts, local restaurants and foods, and of course, all the shopping venues. Matthew, well, you were a first grandchild, and you hold the honor of allowing Gloria to now be called Grammy Glow. She really loved that name, and she told me, grandmas are allowed to be called whatever they want. And she was right. So, now at 60 years old and a first-time grandmother, she had something new and exciting to talk and brag about to her friends at book clubs, stock clubs, dinners, and other get-togethers. Thank you to everyone for being here today. Please know my mom cherished your friendship, your love, your laughter, your conversations, and every moment you spent together with her. Finally, while sitting with her in the hospital, Mom asked me to read a poem at her memorial service. It's called Crabbed Old Woman by Phyllis McCormick. and the amazing part 2 of this tearjerker called Nurse's Reply to the Crabbed Old Woman. It's a beautiful piece of written work, but it's really, really sad. I read it to her in that hospital room. Honestly, that was the most difficult thing I had to do. But there's absolutely no way I'd be able to get through it standing up here, and I thought everyone would understand when they read it on their own. I wondered why she liked this sad poem so much, so I read it over and over. Then I realized it really wasn't a sad poem. It was a positive poem about a real life. Before this old woman was sick, she had a happy, long life with a family, lots of dreams and many stories. And part 2, about the nurse, well, we all know why she liked that. She lived it. Anyway, I thought about it a lot recently, and I decided to read these poems here today. For 2 reasons. First, I made a promise to Mom in that hospital room. And second, I was a bit of a challenge for Mom growing up. Nothing horrible, but I was certainly the most difficult of the 3 kids. But in all fairness to me, it really wasn't much of a competition. Before I read the poems, on behalf of my entire family, thank you all very much for taking the time to join us today in celebration of my mother's extraordinary life. Crabbed Old Woman by Phyllis McCormick. What do you see, nurse? What do you see? What are you thinking when you look at me? Crabbed old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply when you say in a loud voice, I do wish you try, who seems to not notice the things that you do and forever is losing a stocking and shoe, who, unresisting or not, lets you do as you will with bathing and feeding, the long day is filled. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes, nurse. You're looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I rise at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a small child of 10 with a father and mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon now a lover she'll meet. A bride soon at 20, my heart gives a leap, recalling the vows that I promised to keep. At 25, now I have young of my own, who need me to build a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young now grow fast, bound to each other with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons have grown and are gone, but my man is beside me to see I don't mourn. At 50, once more babies play around my knee. Again we know children, my loved one and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look at the future, I shudder with dread. For my young are all rearing youngs of their own, and I think of the years and the love that I've known. I'm an old woman now, and nature is cruel. 'Tis her jest to make old age look like a fool. The body is crumbled, grace and vigor depart. There is now a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass, a young girl still dwells. And now and again, my battered heart swells. I remember the joy, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years, all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, nurse, open and see. Not a crabbed old woman, look closer, see me. A nurse's reply to the crabbed old woman. What do we see, you ask? What do we see? Yes, we are thinking when looking at thee. We may seem to be hard when we hurry and fuss, but there's many of you and too few of us. We would like far more to sit by you and talk, to bathe you and feed you and help you to walk, to hear of your lives and the things you have done, your childhood, your husband, your daughter, your son. But time is against us. There's too much to do, patients too many, and nurses too few. We grieve when we see you so sad and alone, with nobody near you, no friends of your own. We feel all your pain and know of your fear, that nobody cares now, your end is so near. But nurses are people with feelings as well. And when we're together, you'll often hear tell of the dearest old gran in the very end bed, and the lovely old dad and the things that he said. We speak with compassion and love and feel sad when we think of your lives and the joy that you had. When the time has arrived for you to depart, you leave us behind with an ache in our heart. When you sleep the long sleep, no more worry or care. There are other old people, and we must be there. So please understand if we hurry and fuss. There are so many of you and so few of us. Thank you.
Now, we conclude our service with the memorial prayer and then Mourner's Kaddish. Please rise for the memorial prayer. In the prayer books, if you don't know the Mourner's Kaddish by heart and you do want to recite it, it's on page 338. We'll do that right after the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamaromim, Hamtzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, B'malot Kedoshim Uterim, Kezahar Rakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Gitulfea Bat Gabriel Varachel, Shahalcha Le'olama Began Eden Tehem Menuchata, Ana Bal Harachamim Hastirea B'Setzer Kenafecha Le'olamim, Utzeror B'Tzor HaChayim, Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalatach, V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Gloria Margan Holler, Gitulfea Bat Gabriel Varachel, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful God, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul, her neshama, be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Mourner's Kaddish, if you're mourning, or if you're observing a yurtzeit, or if it's your tradition to stand for Mourner's Kaddish, you could all remain standing, or if you need to sit, you can sit. 338. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alama divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei zechol beit Yisrael, ba'galal v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mavarach la'alam la'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitzaleh v'yitzalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiram bi'alama v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. This concludes our service. May Gloria's memory be for a blessing. Zichron livracha. You're welcome to stay around and talk to the family.